Hello and welcome back to the Ghost of Alcantra. Last time we left off after Nick talked to his parents, and we should now be back with Alexandria. July 19th, 19XX. I shouldn't have allowed myself to become so happy. Given the already established formula, such happiness meant bad news was on the way. The bad news came on the evening of the 19th. I nearly became the third murderer in the family when I heard the news that Elisha Radek had been killed and Nick had been present at the event where the murder occurred. Vlad only escaped my wrath via reassurances that Nick was perfectly fine and Vlad hadn't done anything to him. Vlad himself was still being questioned and had yet to return to the mansion. I almost forgot about the third murder, but yeah. A cursory reading of the situation made it seem like Vlad couldn't possibly be the murderer, given he had an alibi. Of course, both my father and I knew better. Marina Radek's daughter being killed pretty much guaranteed Vlad as the killer. Taking advantage of Vlad's absence, I immediately had a talk with my father to reconfirm our belief that Vlad was still at the head of these murderous operations. My father agreed with me, and nothing changed regarding our plans. I was a little worried about Nick and his mental state, given that a staff member reported to me that Nick had witnessed the body. I was anxious for Vlad's return, so that I could safely make my retreat and meet with Nick, and then hopefully provide some comfort to him. I wasn't sure how to comfort someone who had seen a corpse, but at least I could be there for him. I pretended to read in the parlor while awaiting Vlad's arrival, thinking over platitudes to give to Nick and debating whether they were helpful ones. Yeah, I mean what you said, just being there for someone, like being available to talk or not talk, just stay with them, that's good enough. Anything you can do. Vlad returned fairly late in the evening. The staff members rushed to the front door to greet him. I didn't join them, choosing to remain on the sofa in the parlor. I was never going to be deferential to that maniac. Vlad stepped into the parlor, and it was immediately evident from his facial expression that he was not in a good mood. Ignoring me, Vlad walked up to one of the cabinets, grabbed an expensive vase that was sitting on top of it, and then extremely nonchalantly threw the vase at the wall behind the cabinet. The staff members who had been attending Vlad climbed up immediately, and even I put down my book to look towards Vlad. I had no real interest in the preservation of our furniture, but at the very least he didn't need to give more work for the staff. Not paying attention to the stupefaction of the staff or to my judgment, Vlad leaned his foot on a bookshelf and then casually tipped the whole thing over, spilling encyclopedias and reference books. What the fuck? I mean, letting off steam somewhere, sure, but yeah, again, she's right. Don't make work for the staff. His satisfaction for destruction temporarily satiated, he ignored the mess he had created and walked out the back door that led to our patio. His disappearance stirred the staff from their stupor, and they began to clean up the mess. I helped put the books back on the shelf. After that was done, I told them to leave Vlad to me. They seemed grateful. As for myself, I was mostly just curious what had Vlad so troubled that he wasn't willing to maintain his facade. I followed Vlad to the outdoor patio with a morbid curiosity with which one might approach a ledge of a great height, interested in the potential danger that lay ahead. Vlad was seated at one of the tables, vacantly looking out across the grounds. He made a little face when I took a seat opposite of him at the same table.
What do you want, Alexandria?
If you're going to be a pain, you could at least be less destructive about it.
You're here to lecture me?
No, I know that's pointless. I'm here to check up on you.
Like you care how I'm doing.
Of course I care. You've threatened my life after all. My livelihood depends on your fragile mental state.
Fragile, huh? Guess it does look that way.
The murder's finally getting to you?
I expected my provocation to create more of a reaction than it did. Flake just gave a dry laugh and then responded a little sadly.
They are.
You just admit that to me.
You already know anyway.
What if I went and told the police or father?
Wouldn't do a thing. No one would believe you. The way this town is now, I can't be arrested. Too many important people have made a deal with the devil in this town. Unless the moral corruption in this town changes, or father grows a spine and confronts me himself, I'm perfectly safe.
I wouldn't say that father grew a spine, but maybe he grew something like a heart. Blade looked away from the grounds to give me a glance.
Plus, the threat still stands.
Noted.
Blade let out a big sigh and returned his gaze towards the distance. I thought I might be able to use his new openness about the topic to learn more.
So, why did you commit the murders?
Blade didn't turn to look at me. Instead, he continued looking into the distance, as if the horizon might be able to tell him the answer.
Probably because it was a win-win situation.
A win-win situation?
There were two general outcomes that could happen. Either I destroyed the family, or I placed myself in a position where it would be more powerful than ever. I was okay with either outcome.
That sounds more like a lose-lose situation. I'm not sure how the deaths of Marina Raddick, Beryl Johnson, and Alicia Raddick would make the family more powerful than ever. Did you really kill Marina Raddick to silence father's affair from getting out? Or something along those lines?
That's what I told myself. At least that was the excuse I tried to give myself. In reality, I probably killed her just because I had never forgiven her. When I went to our house, I wasn't even sure I was gonna kill her. I just wanted to meet my mother.
How did she react to you coming?
She was polite enough, but she didn't want anything to do with the Thorns. I asked her why she left, and she said she couldn't bear the idea of being a Thorn with Yena around. I asked her why she abandoned her child. She couldn't give me an answer.
And so you killed her?
Not right after that. I then asked her if she wanted to be my mother now. She told me no. I took that more personally than I probably should have, like it was a personal rejection of my existence. Then I killed her.
This whole mess started because of your mommy problems?
Blade just laughed.
When you put it that way, it does sound pretty stupid. But yes, well, her death certainly had benefits beyond just satisfying my hatred for her leaving me. You're right. Mommy and daddy problems started this whole mess.
What, you thought having a mother figure in your life was going to stop you from turning out the way you did?
We all need something to believe, Alexandria. Otherwise, I always was going to be this hopeless stain of a human being. I really want to believe that I could have been a much better person, given different circumstances.
Blade laughed again, but it was a sad laugh. Blade was gone, but at least he was cognizant that he was gone.
You're a blunt counselor, Alexandria, but maybe you do a good job.
I'll think about it.
Marina's death still weighs on me heavily. Sometimes I hear her ghost. I know ghosts aren't real, but the guilt she left me with certainly is. The ghost I created in her image gives me nightmares, lets me know how much she hates me. I thought it was getting better, but then we killed Elisha today, and she came back with a vengeance. I can almost hear her now.
What about Beryl and Elisha? Did you kill them for personal reasons too?
No, the excuse was the same for Marina. I tried to tell myself that it was for the security of my reign as the head. My two main targets were always Marina and Elisha, the mother I should have had, the child I should have been. Beryl was just the bridge between the two. I really didn't need to kill Beryl. Maybe I just did it because it was easy, or because I like killing, or because she was annoying. I killed her as a precaution and so that my accomplices and I could pull off killing Elisha, but in reality, I don't even know if that's the case.
And Elisha?
I killed her because I was envious. She got to live the life the child of Marina Radic should have lived. Then we have me and, well, you know what my life was like. I was vengeful. I doubted Marina told her anything about the thorns. In the end, I didn't really have a good reason to kill her besides my own feelings towards her.
Vlad looked up to the heavens.
More than 120 years of thorn heads, and I'm the first to completely fall apart. Even father's actions can't compare to what I've done.
I mean, with what we're being told that the family is keeping secrets, who knows what the previous heads did or hid, you know.
All the heads were treated horribly by their fathers. I know father was just treating me as he was treated.
That's no excuse. That's no excuse. It's a reason, but not an excuse.
I'm sure some of the heads didn't have good relationships with their mothers because most of the thorn marriages have been arranged ones. Tell me, Alexandria, all those years of abuse by thorns, and I'm the only one to go off the rails. Am I just that weak?
Strong people don't kill others.
That's a very tactful response. You're right. Whatever I am definitely not strong.
He pointed at me.
You know what's funny? When I was younger, I never accepted the way the Thorn family worked. I was constantly rebelling, and that was probably part of the reason I was treated like I was. And you were the one who just accepted what your life was going to be like. But now, our roles are reversed. You've overcome the family, and I'm the one who has accepted it.
I was worried Vlad knew about my deal with father, but if he did, he didn't indicate it.
This family has wronged both of us, and you still turned out to be a good person. Alcantra probably would be a much better place if you had been born first.
Should you really be admitting that?
I just wanted to make it clear to myself that I have no excuse for who I am. My response to injustice was to become even more unjust.
It's not too late to change.
I knew father's plan involved providing the opportunity for Vlad to change. My words were genuine, given what I knew of his future.
It's far, far too late for me, Alexandria.
He let the finality of that sentence bring an end to the topic. Did I feel bad for Vlad? No, and I never would. He had played a significant role in ruining my life. But perhaps I did pity him a little. Maybe he was right, and that in another life, under much better circumstances, he could have been a much better person. But in this life, I lived with this Vlad. This Vlad I could never forgive. The best condolence I could offer him was that the possibility that he might have been a better person did exist.
Let's talk about you, Alexandria.
Me?
Yeah, I've been going on about myself and we haven't talked in a while. You know, given I'm busy conducting murders and you've been getting boyfriends.
Boyfriend. Singular.
I met him today, actually.
I heard. Good thing you didn't touch him. I would have sent you after Marina, Beryl, and Elisha.
Vlad laughed.
He seems like a good guy. You'll be pleased to know he turned down a girl. Still pining after you, I guess.
He did?
Yep. Elisha Reddick, coincidentally.
Well, of course you would. I'm not an easy girl to move on from.
Wow, what an understatement. Do you like him?
Duh.
Lots of people go out with people they don't like.
That seems counterintuitive.
And yet he's unfortunately right. People make a lot of strange decisions, Alexandria.
What about you then? After you put this whole murdering business behind you, is there someone special for you?
Vlad shook his head.
I have a girlfriend. Neither of us gives a damn about the other.
So you're one of those people making a strange decision?
I am. Seeing how happy you were with Nick, it makes me question why I ever bothered with Felicia. We're together simply because she wanted to be a part of the Thorns, and I let her on the grounds that she does what I tell her.
That's horrible.
It is. I'm not even sure I know how to love.
That's ridiculous.
Is it? I can't remember the last time I thought of another person in a way that wasn't gauging what I could get from them, or how much of a threat they were to me. Loving someone for who they are? I don't think I've even considered the possibility. Maybe if I'd met the equivalent of your Nick, maybe I would have turned out better.
No one is going to fix you, Vlad. People save themselves.
What does that mean?
That you can only be fixed if you're willing to change yourself, and I don't think you really are willing to change.
Vlad slowly started nodding in response.
You're probably right about that. Changing means that everything till now has been for nothing. I can't accept that.
That obviously wasn't true, but I just shrugged. Vlad was determined to be miserable.
You're a lost cause then.
He shrugged back.
Guess so.
Vlad got up from the table and stretched his shoulders.
I'm not willing to change. Yeah, that's probably the worst thing about me. That's something to think about.
He gave a big yawn and pointed towards the mansion.
I'm heading back. It's been a good chat, Alexandria. And remember, I'm serious about the killing thing.
How could I forget?
He smiled, maybe the first real smile I had seen from him in years.
Good night. I hope you get to meet Nick again.
Ominous. Maybe just ominous because of what we know is going to happen, but... With that, Vlad started back towards the mansion, and I followed behind him, preparing for my escape from it. There was plenty to think about from what Vlad had said, but only one conclusion to be made, that Vlad was a bad person, but a sad one as well. Yeah, kind of pitiful, yeah. July 20th, 19XX. Vlad's openness was not reciprocated with my secrecy. The next day I relayed all that Vlad had admitted to me to father. Unfortunately, all this did was reinforce my father's misguided determination to rebuild familial bonds. Wow.
Sorry, Alexandria. I know you want us to turn him in, but my mind is made up now more than ever. I need to help my son.
I understand your view as his father, but he really shouldn't get away with killing 3 people. I don't think he can be reformed anyway. He said it himself. He's too far gone.
You would ask a father to give up on his son?
If you put it like that, it sounds harsh, but there are lines. There are lines. There's... like... You might say, sure, parents are supposed to unconditionally love their children, but if they make choices like this, if they... You know, it's not something that they're born with, it's like actions they took, choices they made for themselves. I think in those cases you can absolutely give up on them. So it may sound harsh, but you know, again, there's there's some stuff that people do, I would draw a line there.
Yes, I would.
My father chuckled.
Maybe you have more thorn tendencies in you than I thought. Sorry, but I can't and never will give up on Vlad. Besides, what good would putting Vlad in jail do? I wouldn't have taken you to be such a retributivist.
I'm not, and I don't think jail would fix him either. It's just that he's not there anymore, Father. It's for safety as much as anything.
My father nodded.
Well, I agree with that, which is why I'd like to get him away from you at the very least. The plan is to get him out of Alcantra.
Where are you taking him?
To Washington.
Washington? The state?
Yes,
Why there?
because it's far away from here.
Since when did we have property in Washington?
Since I bought some a couple of days ago.
I guess it was... Jeez. I guess it was as easy as that for the Thorns.
And you don't think he's going to be dangerous in Washington?
He's not a serial killer. His killings are all personal.
What kind of reasoning is that? If someone murdered once, they can murder again. That's the logic I would go with, but okay.
That only leaves you and I left as potential victims, maybe some of the members of the mansion. When I take him to Washington, I'll be the only one in danger.
I sighed.
You're serious, huh?
I am serious.
I gave an exaggerated shrug.
So, what's the plan then?
This was my father's ridiculously stupid plan. Father was going to slowly siphon out staff members from the mansion for breaks so that there wouldn't be many in the mansion when the news was broken to Vlad. Father would then tell Vlad the news while having two of his most trusted helpers there to help restrain Vlad in case things got physical. I thought my father was supposed to be smart. What kind of plan was this supposed to be?
No offense, Father, but these guys are kind of old. Do you really think they can handle Vlad?
Of course they can. They have actual combat experience.
Vlad has been trained in some combat areas too, right?
Yes, but he doesn't have experience.
He's killed people.
That's different.
Is it? Anyway, even if they do restrain him, what are you going to do? Drag him and then fly him to Washington?
Father looked up at the ceiling, wanting to avoid that question.
You can't be serious. You're acting like he's a wild animal.
I am treating him like he's a wild animal. It is my fault he was never allowed to become a person. I'm hoping that after the shock from the news wears off, that he'll be accommodating.
And if he's not?
I'll find a way to get him on that plane.
You're just as delusional as Vlad is.
Maybe so. He's my son after all.
It would be so much easier for us to just walk together to the station and tell the police what he told me.
Yes, but that would do nothing for Vlad except essentially end his life.
Vlad will consider his life to be over as soon as you tell him he's not the head.
He'll temporarily feel that way. Spending the rest of his life in prison will make that feeling permanent. I hope that I can help Vlad see that his life isn't over. In fact, in a certain respect, it's just beginning.
Father, please reconsider this plan, even you must realize how asinine it sounds.
Asinine in what way?
In every way. Hoping Vlad will accept this, forcibly taking him to another state, thinking Vlad can change. The whole plan is terribly stupid.
My mind is made up, Alexandria. I'm not giving up on Vlad.
You won't turn him in?
Never.
I shook my head in resignation.
I hope you know what you're doing.
He detailed the rest of the plan and then told me that I did not have to be present for the meeting where he told Vlad of his decision.
Of course I'll be present. It's my duty as the next head. Besides, if Vlad does overpower the guys restraining him, I'll be dead either way. Might as well get it over with.
I mean, sure.
That's very positive of you, Alexandria.
Is it? Is it really? The rest of the details were about getting instructions on how to run the family. Father would be sending me some remote instructions, but his personal confidants would be in charge of most of my training. Given that I was supposed to be rebuilding the family, I was going to be given a lot of leeway in terms of how I ran things. The family was absurdly rich already. I couldn't screw things up too bad. Instead, I hoped to rebuild the Thorn name into something more positive to the local Alcantra area. With the details for my transition to the headship in place, I began thinking of ways to celebrate with Nick. I wanted to cap off our nighttime trysts appropriately. As inconvenient as my house arrest had been, it had ultimately led to some pretty magical moments. When life gives you lemons, buy better ingredients.
Oh, I never heard it twisted that way.
I decided that we should do a stargazing date. I was very familiar with the stars and had a nice telescope. Over the next couple of days, I began sneaking out the parts of my telescope during my escapes to be ready for the date. After most of the telescope had been smuggled out of the mansion, I brought up the idea to Nick after I had told him that I would be named the next head on the 25th.
So, we're doing something special.
Of course you are. I mean, your family is so rich, they must throw massive parties.
No, I mean we as in us. We're doing something special to cap off our secret meetings.
It's kind of sad that we won't be meeting like this anymore.
I feel the same. It feels like both a beginning and an end. It's the beginning of us being together publicly and for me being known for who I am. But it's the end to the us who met at the fireworks of the summer festival.
Don't be silly. That us will never end. But I get what you mean. It makes me kind of sad to think that I won't be keeping your secret anymore. It made me feel kind of special, like I was wanted and needed.
You are wanted and needed.
That's not what I mean. Knowing that I was one of the few people to know you, to know who you are, brought a warmth to my life. Of course, I know that's terrible, and I'm really glad you won't have to hide who you are anymore. But still, I get why you want to do something special.
Right? Our relationship is going to be normal, and it's going to be weird.
It's going to be weird that it's normal?
You know what I mean. Me hiding my identity, you keeping my secret, sneaking out at night. Our relationship was definitely not normal. You have to hand it to us, at least we were spicy.
Is spicy really the right word for our relationship?
Whatever, at least my first romance wasn't drab and ordinary.
It was never going to be ordinary if you were involved.
I told him about my stargazing date plan and how I'd been sneaking out pieces of the telescope.
So you need to come up with something romantic too.
Is stargazing not romantic?
No, it is, but it's my contribution to this date. You need to come up with something romantic for us to do.
That's so unfair. You've been planning this for days and I just found out we were doing something today.
You'll figure something out. It better make me swoon.
You know, I had a dream where we did something like this and you told me this was you wanting to do something for me after all I've done for you. Why can't you be like the Alexandria in my dreams?
The me now has higher standards for love. Besides, if you had a dream about it, why would you want to do the same thing?
What can I do anyway? hold you in my arms and whisper how much you mean to me and how empty I'd be without you and how I'd wish this would go on forever?
Why do you act like those are silly things to say?
I mean, haven't I said those things already anyway?
I'm sure you'll think of something very romantic.
He humphed loudly. You don't believe that I have a romantic bone in my body, but I'll show you. I smiled wildly in response.
Looking forward to it.
Yes, it was the beginning of an end for us. But he was right. Some things would never end for us even after these nighttime meetings. July 24th, 19XX. It is sometimes the kindest people who are the most foolish. Only those with the fortitude to endeavor to understand someone else will face the heart-rending agony that can accompany that pursuit. You are one of those fools, Nick. You are my beloved fool, whose earnestness condemns you as much as it saves you. Let me condemn that condemnation. Let us love and let us remember. Remember that this is all for you, Nick, and it always has been. The telescope I smuggled out lay in a bag hidden under some leaves and branches outside the mansion gates. Nick and I had arranged to meet at some cliffs I had told him about that would make for excellent stargazing. As such, I needed to leave quite early, given the distance to our meeting location and the cumbersome nature of moving while carrying a bag with a telescope in it. Thankfully, Flade was in his room by 10, and by the convenience of setting and the wishes of the romantic gods, I was able to sneak out easily again. I arrived at the meeting point about 20 minutes before midnight and began putting together the telescope. Nick arrived partway through the assembly. There was something I needed to convey to him. For the benefit of this life, of a past one, and all the lives he might lead, there was something he needed to know.
What do you think of stories, Nick?
He spluttered in response to my sudden inquiry. What does that have to do with anything?
Everything, to be completely honest with you.
Well, I like movies and sometimes like reading books.
That's not what I meant. Like, what do stories mean to you?
He thought about it for a couple of seconds, like I was testing him. Admittedly, I kind of was. I guess it depends on the story. I sighed. The boy always needed my help for these sorts of things. I pointed to a random star.
Maybe an analogy will help you out. You see that star?
Yeah, what about it?
I then pointed to another star. You see that one?
Yeah, where are you going with this?
Well, those two stars are very, very far apart. Like, so far apart we can't really comprehend it. Now let's pretend those stars are us.
We are literally 2 feet away from each other.
Metaphorically, you dummy.
I thought we were like super close to each other. I'm not sure I've been metaphorically closer to anyone else in my life.
That's sweet, but I have it on good authority that we see things pretty differently. Do you think we know what it's like to be each other?
Maybe a little.
Maybe a little about sums it up. Just like those two stars, we look close, but are actually very far apart. I can't feel exactly what you're feeling, and you can't feel exactly what I'm feeling. That's just what it means to be two different people.
That's so depressing.
No, it's romantic. Now imagine the constellations. Obviously the images in the stars aren't literally there. We add the lines ourselves. The stars are billions of light years away from each other, and we connect them in order to try and bridge the gap between them. We do the same with stories. Take you and me. If we were to tell our stories to each other, perhaps we might bridge the gap between us like two stars in the night sky, by just a little bit.
And what would your story be?
I smiled at him.
I've been telling it to you.
I continued smiling, though I imagined there was a hint of sadness to my smile as well.
You see, I thought like you did before. Any story you told me would be a familiar one, because I knew you so well. I thought you must know how I felt as well. Let me ask you this. Do you think we tell the same story about our time together?
I imagine our thoughts and the way we tell the story would be different, but I think they'd be pretty similar.
You'd think that, right? But I think they'd be pretty different. No, that's not right. I know they'd be very different. If something bad happened to me, do you think you could look back on our time together positively?
A shadow fell over his face. It would depend on what bad thing happened to you.
You once told me a story where you blamed yourself because of something that happened to me. It was a story of how I was to punish you because you wanted me to. It was a story of regret and self-hatred.
That sounds horrible.
It was horrible. I felt awful. I even felt a little betrayed. How could you think about our time together like that? Then I realized I didn't know the extent of your grief at all. And you didn't know mine. I needed to redraw the line between us and make sure that line connecting us became just a bit brighter, just a bit stronger.
I stepped forward and took Nick's face in my hands.
Would it change things if you knew that the prospect of death never stopped me from meeting with you? That I was always willing to die if it meant just one more minute with you?
He looked down to avoid my gaze. I don't know.
If my story was about a girl who loved you so much that she rewrote the world so that it was one where we could kiss, make love, do things we couldn't do in other worlds, would that change things?
He slowly picked his gaze from the ground to tentatively meet my eyes again.
If my story was about someone having the courage to take a step forward, would you be inspired to take a step forward as well?
He put his hand over mine. These are some pretty scary hypotheticals, Alexandria.
It can be a pretty scary world out there, Nick. That's why we tell each other stories.
Nick brought his other hand to my face. When I hear your story, Alexandria, I'm sure something will change in me. I'll have the courage to take the next step. The line between us will be drawn.
It better. I don't want us to be far apart ever again.
Together forever.
Promise?
Promise.
Good. And no breaking it, no matter what happens. Promise?
You sure are persistent. Promise.
Good. Let's go look at those stars now.
I pointed out the stars to Nick. I held him while he looked through the telescope. The stars had always meant a lot to us, given that they were our guardian angels, our constant companion for our unions and reunions. It felt silly placing so much romanticism on big clouds of gas and plasma, and yet it felt very right. The world without sentiment was just matter and observations. Only the world in which we added meaning, our coping mechanism in the face of irrelevance, was there something to care about. They aren't real. You might say that about stories, and that's precisely why they mean anything. Our time together now, Nick, whether you decide it's my story or your delusion or a coping mechanism, whichever you decide, let it mean something to you. That's all we can do. Otherwise it's too scary being a star alone in the sky, unable to connect to the other stars because you're so far away. We don't need to let existence be that scary.
My favorite constellation is Orion, though you can't see it in the northern hemisphere this time of year.
Why is Orion your favorite?
Because it's a love story that never ends.
I leaned my forehead against Nick's back.
You promised me, okay? We'll be a love story that never ends.
That's a lot of commitment for a month into a relationship.
Don't play dumb. This has been going on for a long, long time.
He laughed. We'll be a love story that never ends. No matter what happens, I'll never forget you. I know that more than anything.
That's such a low bar, Nick. You can do better than never forgetting me. I want you to always love me.
You already know that I will. I can imagine your smug little monologues going on about how much you know I love you. It was my turn to laugh.
But I'm greedy. It takes two to make a love story work. I want you to love the you who loves me too. Then, and only then, will our love story never end.
I've made a lot of stupid decisions, but falling in love with you wasn't one of them. I'll make sure our love story never ends. He stepped away from the telescope, reddening slightly. Actually, this might be a good time for me to show my contribution to this romantic outing. You know, since you demanded me and all. I had totally forgotten. I was just teasing him like I normally did.
Demanded is such a harsh-sounding word.
Okay, requested very sternly of me. He cleared his throat. It's a little embarrassing, but let me just go get the things. He stepped behind me and rummaged through the backpack he had brought with him. When he took out the items he had brought with him, my face reddened a little as well. He took out a tiara made out of dahlias and a piece of silk that could only be a veil. He had a hard time meeting my eyes.
I didn't know you knew flower language.
I don't. I looked up what flowers symbolize together forever.
I think the Victorians had a different idea of everlasting love than I do, but it's still great regardless.
He handed me the flower tiara and I put it on.
Now I'm really a princess.
You'll be a queen soon.
Soon, but tonight I'm still a princess.
I pointed towards the veil in his hands, knowing full well what it was for.
So, what's that all about?
Nick looked a little abashed. Yes. Well, I was thinking of romantic things to do, and I'm not good at thinking abstractly like you are. We've held hands, we've hugged, we've kissed, we had... I cleared my throat loudly. Yeah, well, I couldn't think of anything, and then I realized there was still one thing we could. He let the words trail off into the night air. He was right. There was still one thing we hadn't done. I put my hand out, a big smile on my face.
And here you were pretending that I was the one who was rushing things.
He put the veil into my hand. I mean, it's not a real ceremony.
We don't need a real ceremony to get married. The heavens will recognize the union of soulmates, even if the law doesn't.
In a way, we had been together for a long time. We already belonged to each other. This was a long time coming. I wrapped the veil around me and secured it with a tiara on my head. Nick reached into his bag and brought out a little bow tie to clip onto his shirt. Sorry, wouldn't have been easy to bring the full suit and, definitely couldn't afford a full wedding dress. I couldn't help but laugh. This suited us much better than a formal ceremony, I thought. It's really cute.
That's okay, the bow tie is cute.
Right? He cleared his throat and put out both of his hands. I took them in my own. Aww. Let's dream together for just a moment. Let's get married.
We'll do more than dream, and for much longer than a moment.
You're right. He cleared his throat again, thinking of what to say. Since we don't have a priest or official person, I guess I'll start. In sickness and, health?
That is so boring.
What?
We can do better vows than the normal ones.
Okay, how should we do our vows? I'm sorry, don't know what's wrong today. Okay, how should we do our vows then? The only thing I know about wedding ceremonies is that they kiss at the end.
Everything's about kissing for guys. We're celebrating our union. Together forever, right? Even the flowers you picked say that. We need to make our vows about us.
How do we do that? I rolled my eyes at him.
Promise the me who is spending eternity with you things that you would want promised to her.
That would be a lot of things.
Well, say them concisely.
I couldn't help but giggle to mask my own embarrassment about the situation. You expect some things to never happen to you. I could pretend that this was playing pretend, but I knew, better than anyone, there was nothing more real than this.
And I'll say them concisely too.
Nick nodded and cleared his throat a third time. Third time's the charm. Nick Thorne. I spluttered at the name choice, even though he had already agreed to be a thorn in my side. Please, Alexandria, this is hard enough already.
Sorry. Go ahead.
A thought came to me. I knew what we could promise to each other.
Actually, Nick, can you let me start?
He looked relieved. Yeah, feel free. But it wasn't a vow I was going to start with. It was a question.
Nick Thorne, will you promise that no matter what happens to me, you'll always keep me in your heart? Even after my body fails, Alexandria Thorne will live on with you?
He squeezed my hands. I promise you that I've never wanted you to leave me, and you never will.
And I promise that I'll always be by your side, watching over you until we're reunited once again. I promise to never stop loving you in all that time.
I promise that I'll love you when we're together, when we're separated, and when we're reunited.
I promise that when you're hurt or broken or defeated, that I'll be there for you. Death can't stop me from being with you.
I promise that I'll never regret our meeting, that when you protect me, I'll have the strength and courage to accept your aid.
I promise to share life with you.
I promise to share death with you.
I promise to share eternity with you.
All the forever endeavors, I promise to share them all with you. We both smiled at each other, and there was a hint of tears in both of our eyes. From happiness or sadness, I didn't know. We both knew there was nothing else to say between us. Such promises might seem exaggerated, romantic sentiments meant to reassure rather than actual truths. But for us, they had to be true. Death had already tried to separate us and had failed. We both knew that our eternity would be shared together.
You know what comes next, Nick?
I know you've been looking forward to it, Alexandria. He leaned forward and whispered to me. And I may now kiss the bride. He leaned over and kissed me. A kiss was but a moment, but this moment sealed the togetherness of our union for an eternity. Of course, nothing lasts forever. Eventually, the last star will blink its last, and the lights will go out, and that will be the end. So, if we were to be immortal, the closest we could get is from being loved and remembered. I will die, Nick will die, but us? We will never die. We'll soon leave this world and join the world where Artemis and Orion are. We join all those other lights in the sky, the realm of the immortals. So, take this image and imagine it as our gravestone. Take Nick with his hands on my face, his lips on mine. Take Alexandria, my hands on his face, my lips on his. Here lies Alexandria and Nick Thorne. May they be happy together for all eternity. Starlight, oh stars bright, thank you, my spotlight. With our vows and kiss signaling the end of this story and the beginning of our immortality, it's time for the spotlight to illuminate others. All that's left now is to say goodbye. Romance and Constellations Part 2. Let's congratulate Nick and Alexandria Thorne is the achievement. That was sweet. That got me a little emotional there with their vows. Oh, okay. I've been putting this off for far too long. I ran away for as long as I could. When one looks over towards the horizon, they never think they'll actually get there. But I reached it. I reached you, Alexandria. I reached you for a reason. Am I ready for what's next? I think I'm almost ready to say goodbye, Alexandria. I've talked to Warburton, Scarlett, Uncle Kyle, and my parents, but there's one more person I need to talk to. They've been waiting 10 years at the same spot for me. It's about time I let them go. We're really doing it, are we? There was a kid who once believed that people were good for each other, that each person had a unique story. The more we learned from these stories, the more we understood the world. The kid came to this realization at a fairly young age. He couldn't pinpoint the exact moment. There was no dramatic backstory. There was no grand revelation. It was a quiet realization. The kid realized that every time he passed another person, he passed someone who also saw the world through a myopic, first-person perspective. It was a perspective full of hopes, dreams, doubts, and despairs, the staggeringly wide expanse of a life seen through a claustrophobic lens. The kid realized that his own vivid viewpoint was just one of many, and the concept of many he could comprehend was just a drop in the ocean of all the viewpoints that would eventually come to be. But as soon as the kid had this realization of what was, he also realized what could never be. All the kid would ever know was the self-centered story that revolved around him. Other people seemed so close, but their worlds were an infinitely long distance away. The kid could reach out as far as he could, but his grasp of others would always come up short, caught by the chain of perspectival limitations. Even still, the kid decided to reach out anyway. Understanding others was merely colloquial, metaphorical. It couldn't actually be done. But the kid believed you had to try. You just had to. The world that lay beyond the mind would be forever unknown otherwise. The story of the universe isn't just the story of you, it's the story of you and others. So, the kid decided to reach out, to learn about the stories of the other worlds in the universe. That kid was me, and I've let that kid down. I reached the clearing where I found Alexandria's body, the spot where I left the person I used to be. There he was. Is that how I used to look? I wore a carefree smile. I looked happy. I was looking at myself, but it was like looking at a stranger, someone I barely knew. You haven't let me down. Yeah? Then explain to me now. It's been a long time, but I still remember who I was. I've let the person I was down by becoming the me I am now. You haven't let your past self down. You let who you are now down. I looked at myself skeptically. I smiled back, an almost cocky smile. Did Alexandria really fall for a dude like this? Your self-induced torture wasn't because you really thought Alexandria hated you, right? Yeah, I knew Alexandria wouldn't hate me for what happened. It was always in the back of your mind, the thought that maybe she resented your time together, but you knew her well enough to know she wasn't the type of person to think like that. What you went through in your made-up Alcantra was because you hate yourself. You have for the last 10 years. Yeah, that's obvious. Well, I'm here to tell you the obvious because, let's face it, sometimes you're so dumb that you need the obvious told to you.
Maybe I was meaner than I thought.
You've talked with Warburton, Scarlett, Uncle Kyle, and our parents. You've seen the story Alexandria showed you. But none of them can save you. Not even Alexandria. They aren't the ones who will wake up every day to your thoughts, who will have to go through each day as you. There's only one person who can put up with you for every moment for the rest of your life. You're the only person who can go to bed every night knowing they're going to wake up as you. You're the only person who can decide that your next step will be forward. The only one who can be your saving grace is you. My younger self pointed at me proudly. That's why I'm here, to tell you that I still love you. I don't really feel like I love myself. My younger self nodded. Of course you'd feel like it'd be hard to love yourself. After all, there's a lot about you you're not really fond of. Your self-hatred from Alexandria's death wasn't just because you regret your actions. Nobody knows what would have happened if you told others about who she was. So, why then do you hate yourself? I think I hated that I was wrong. Wrong in what way? That the me who believed that people were good for each other, all that stuff I preached to Alexandria, why I talked to her that evening, that the me I loved so deeply was wrong. I wasn't good for her. It was a mistake that we met. Each human lives in an inescapable shell. Sometimes it's better to stay in that shell. You don't really think that. That's why you haven't let me down and why you've let yourself down. You think it was good that you met Alexandria. She died because she met me. Her opening up to me killed her. She lived because she met you. You know that now. He raised an eyebrow at me. And don't think you can fool me. I know you're glad you met Alexandria. You said that you weren't good for her, but didn't say that she wasn't good for you. You've never even considered that possibility. Of course not. Despite all the pain her death has caused you. Despite all the pain her death has caused me. I'm glad I met her. Then why do you deny the reverse? Why do you deny that you were good for her? Why would you deny something so obvious? I couldn't answer that. Alexandria had to get up from her nice rest, get her ghostly ass in gear just so she could show your dumb ass something so obvious. The Nick Fox Alexandria fell in love with wasn't wrong to talk to her, to open up to her, to share his world with her. The Alexandria Thorne Nick fell in love with wasn't wrong to open up to him, to share her world with him. She's shown you that, but it's up to you to accept it. Am I really worth loving? Of course you are. You think you were wrong. What Alexandria has done is shown that you were right. You needed to see her story. I needed to see her story. What did you believe? That we should learn about other people's worlds, that the world would be better for doing so. What did Alexandria show you? her world. And did you learn something from seeing her world? I did. I was beginning to get it now. I let a small smile show. And what do you still believe? That we should learn about other people's worlds, that the world would be better for doing so. Do you think someone who believes that is worth loving? Yeah, I do. I looked at myself proudly. I'm not done with living yet, am I? Like hell you are. Alexandria has told me her story, but my story isn't finished yet. Not even close. And the world isn't done with Alexandria Thorne either. Not as long as she's part of your story. You've still got a job to do. The story of Nicholas Fox can't be told without the story of Alexandria Thorne. The echoes of the lingering past inform the creations and efforts of the present to inspire those who are to come. When did I sound so poetic? Alexandria rubbed off on you. You should let her help you get through life rather than use her as an excuse to avoid it. We need others to get through life. Each and every connection we make helps us put one foot in front of the other. The steps of those who were follow us as we approach those who will be. Our story is just one among many that will help others take the next step. Now you're just trying to show off. Don't try so hard to sound smart. We aren't like Alexandria. Okay then, how about this? Stop moping and get your bitches out there. Now you sound too much like Warburton. Well, what do you propose to say to yourself? I thought about it. How about, life is hard, but you can do it? You serious? Something that simple, that cliché? That serious. That serious isn't a very fitting phrase, given you're going to live, right? I nodded. I am. My younger self laughed. Then I guess you're right. Life is hard, and you can do it. Not much more to say than that. See, you'll be alright if you know that. Just don't forget it. How could I, after all I've been through? You just said it. Life is hard. Bad things will happen, and when they do, you'll have to remember all of this. You'll remember your time with Alexandria, your misery without her, your reunion with her. You'll remember that you can get through life because she'll always be with you. You can get through whatever happens because you love the you who will be going through those tough times. So promise me this. Promise me that you'll always love yourself. I promise. We smiled at each other. Then we're done here. It's time for you to return to Alexandria now. She still has things to tell you. And I have things to tell her. Right. Go have a good life. I stuck out my hand. My younger self raised an eyebrow. Shaking your own hand is just weird. Oh, come on, it's symbolic. My younger self rolled his eyes. That's Alexandria and I's thing. Well, it's going to be our thing now too. After all, both you and her are a part of me. It's my thing. He sighed. Can't argue with that. My younger self shook my hand. Good luck out there. Thanks for everything. He smiled and walked past me. I turned around and watched him climb up the hill. I watched him move forward. There was a lot behind that everything. Thank you for 17 years of life, for meeting Alexandria, for opening up to her, and for still loving me. I still had a lot to live for, because I'm my saving grace. Welcome back, Nicholas Fox. Acceptance, a resolve to live, has been found as the achievement. Okay. I am going to leave it here. Maybe I'm putting off the inevitable with Alexandria, but I don't know, those were some really, really good scenes. So, yeah. I mean, we were told before that Nick would need, like the only person to convince him to live would be himself. And that was a nice way to do it. To do the younger version and the version now. I had been wondering previously in these, well, quote-unquote flashbacks that Alexandria shows us that Nick looks the way he does, like he looks like the current Nick. But that kind of confirms it, yeah, that those were not necessarily memories, but just her point of view, the stories she wanted to tell him. And that's nice, I like that. But yeah, that's it from me for today. As always, I'd appreciate if you'd let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye bye.